Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Right on Track. I am very excited because joining me today is Ben Selleck. Hi, Ben.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Brilliant. It's the weather today over in England is pretty much perfect. It's really sunny. I'm sat out in the garden with a glass of water. It's beautiful.
Oh, wow, that does sound really pretty. We've been getting awesome days here in Pittsburgh as well. It's been really nice. I'm holding on to those last summer days until fall hits and it gets cool. But yeah, it's been awesome here as well. Well, I'm so excited you're on today with me because we're going to be talking all about how to embrace ourselves as songwriters and artists through accepting our voices and songwriting styles and everything that goes into that. But before we talk about this, would you like to share a little bit with the listeners about your songwriting journey so far?
Yes, so I'm 37 years old, and I've been a musician for 20 years now. It's been a long journey, but it's actually taken me until this amount of time, 20 years, to release my first solo first solo singles, and it probably wouldn't have happened without like lockdown and everything that we've all been through this last year and a half, and so that's where I am now. I've been a keyboard player in lots of different tribute bands that do like the tribute circuit around the UK and actually in different countries as well. But this lockdown kind of rekindled my passion for songwriting again and embracing that,
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic. And I'm so glad that you're starting to find yourself more. I'm super glad that you're starting to put out this incredible music that you've been putting out. And I'm sure you have so much more on the way.
Yeah, thank you. That's really kind. To come from another artist is brilliant to hear. So thanks.
Oh, you're very welcome. So to start off our awesome conversation we're going to have, would you like to read a quote by Lindsey Stirling?
I would love to. It says, "Sometimes being different feels a lot like being alone. But with that being said, being true to that and being true to my standards and my way of doing things in my art and my music, everything that has made me feel very different, in the end, has made me the happiest."
I love this quote. So what does this mean to you?
It's a new quote for me, but when we were decided to talk about this, I think it's something that's really come to the forefront in my life, really. Just accepting yourself and all of the different situations that you put yourself in and through, kind of it's the most rewarding things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I also think that as an artist and a songwriter looking at this quote, it's so true because we want to be unique, and the way to really get noticed and stand out is to be unique. And through doing that, sometimes we can feel alone. What Lindsay is saying, being different makes you feel like you're completely alone because you're one of a kind. But at the same time, that's what will get you success and happiness. And I definitely think that there is a road to acceptance in a way when we first start, which is something we're going to be talking about throughout this episode. When you first start, it's really hard to love your voice and love your style and think that just because you're a little different, that you don't really belong in the industry and all those things. But I definitely think being different is very important as an artist.
I totally agree with you. And also, I know you're just saying that it's important when you're young and a new artist, emerging artist, to recognize that you're a bit different. But actually, even as I grow older, it's something that became even harder for me as I got a bit. I'm not ancient, but I'm a little bit older than I used to be, obviously, and it's something that got very tough for me actually to accept myself as I got older.
So, what was your journey of self acceptance like with your voice and your style from when you first started those years ago to now?
Yeah, well, I think when I was younger, you've got this this youthful, not arrogance, but this youthful determination to tackle the world. And you know, when I was 16, I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be famous, and nothing was going to stand in my way, you know. And then countless other people chasing after a dream, when it doesn't quite turn out the way you want it to, you get these knocks, and it kind of like damages your not just your ego but your confidence. And it took me a long time to reassess the situation, and I think I hid behind like joining wedding bands and cover bands, and I shied away from songwriting for a very long time. And it took perhaps the lockdown when all the live gigs dried up and we weren't allowed to go out gigging. It's when it made me really look at myself and think, you know, if you're not going to take a step, then when are you going to do it? Because now's as good a time as any. And I think I was much better at accepting my voice when I was younger, and it's only just now that I've kind of re-accepted my voice, if that makes sense. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I want to touch on two things that you brought up. The first being that during lockdown is when you made the decision, okay, I'm going to do this because if I don't, when am I going to? And I think that's huge. And I totally agree with the lack of confidence thing too. Like, it's really hard to be yourself and be confident, especially when you have these big dreams and goals and you're not necessarily reaching them quickly or how you want to. But the fact that you took that step is huge, and you should be very, very proud of yourself. And also, the whole thing about being able to accept your voice more when you're younger, that really intrigued me. So, can you share a little bit about that?
Okay, so when I was younger, I guess in England everyone's quite shy, and it seems we're a lot more reserved. And I just didn't know any singers of my age. It was a pretty rare thing, so I just felt pretty confident in my abilities because there wasn't many people to to compare yourself to, I guess. And you get together with bandmates and you start writing songs, and that's kind of where I came from. I never wanted to, I didn't have problems at school or problems in my family life that made me feel um, self-conscious about myself, if that makes sense. I've always been very shy, but at the same time, not self-conscious. I think there's a bit of a difference, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I feel like I'm a shy person too, but then you think about being a songwriter and opening up about personal things in songs. That's not very shy, but I don't really, open up in social situations or go out of my way to necessarily make the first step or contact with somebody. I'm very shy, but I've definitely gotten better with that over the past year and a half. But in general, something you said that really jumped out at me was when you were younger, you felt like you didn't necessarily have anybody to compare yourself to. And that is huge with acceptance and, loving our own voices and our songwriting styles, because there's always people that we can look at and be like, oh yeah, they're a way better singer than me, or I wish I could write lyrics like that. It's so much all the time. And like, I know I look up to Kelsey Ballerini so much, and I can sit here and think, I wish I was Kelsey. She's amazing. But then again, like, there's only one Kelsey Ballerini. I'm not going to be Kelsey Ballerini. I have to be Demi Michelle. And it's definitely really difficult when you have these very successful artists that we look up to and songwriters as well, because we're always comparing ourselves, even if we're not consciously doing it. In the back of our heads, we're always comparing ourselves to others, and that can be very difficult to deal with.
Absolutely agree, and I think that became evident in my life when I did start joining like all the tribute bands, and I was the keyboard player, and I'm working with some of the best singers in the UK, and they've got these really high rock voices, and it was it was everything that I thought I wanted to be when I was a kid, like a rock singer, and to you know be at stadiums. But actually, I've got I'm pretty proud of the tone in my voice now, and I'm proud of the music that I'm creating. It's it's coming from me. It's coming from my life, and you've just got to be proud of that and go with it. I'm super proud of the music that I'm making at the minute as well. So
That's great. Oh, I'm so happy to hear you say that. It's always great when you realize like how proud you are of your own music. And I think the reason why you're so proud of it is what you just said. It's coming from you in your life. And that's something that is uniquely us. We can compare our voices and songwriting styles to others in the industry, but there's only one us, and we have our own stories and our own emotions and our own experiences, and embracing that, that's what makes us so unique.
have you ever experienced like those moments of self-doubt as a songwriter?
Oh, 100%. Completely. Yeah, I feel like I've only been doing this since 2019. As a career, I started writing for fun in 2017, but when 2019 rolled around, that's when I was like, I want to be a songwriter. So I've only been doing it for about a year and a half, 2 years. It'll be 2 years in November. Ever since releasing my first single. So I haven't been doing this very long, almost 2 years. And I've definitely experienced that self doubt, especially being new and, all the things that go into it. Loving my voice, being one to put out these songs, and also growing as a songwriter and trying to make myself known while also, comparing myself to other people, like we were just talking about. So I feel like self doubt is something that we always will face. It's part of being human, I think. But I've definitely gotten better recently, and I think what I needed was to see some kind of success that I didn't necessarily see with my first two singles because I didn't know anything about promotion or radio or anything. So I just released the songs and then let them sit there. And when I saw no one really listening, that really hurt my confidence. But at the same time, I didn't know the industry from the business side. And so my last three singles, Ellie Will Wait For Me, Will I Ever, and Find Love, I did a lot of press and radio and everything for those songs. And seeing the response has definitely given me confidence. So I feel like the more people show love for my music and say I related to that or I absolutely love that song and seeing it chart on radio stations and all those kinds of things, those are the things that definitely help me get over my self doubt.
Yeah, and I guess it's all that imposter syndrome, isn't it, as well? And you to try and talk yourself up. You can be confident about your voice and your music, but at the same time, to do things like this, I find so um, just scary. I find them really terrifying to promote the music and things like that. But you've got to be confident in your abilities and go out and promote all that stuff, haven't you? Really?
Right, yeah, you definitely have to be confident. And like you were saying, it definitely is scary, especially when releasing a vulnerable song and having to do the whole interview run and press and radio and everything. And at first, I felt like I didn't belong, and I don't know how you felt, but when I first started releasing music, I was like, am I good enough to even be doing this in the first place? And I think that goes back to lack of confidence in my voice and my songwriting style that I had to get over because a lot of people say this, and it's definitely true. A lot of people say that in order for people to believe in you, you have to believe in yourself first. And I definitely did not do that at the beginning. And so I think that's definitely a reason why I didn't really feel confident or get, the love on my music that I wanted. And so it's definitely really important to believe in yourself and love who you are as a songwriter and artist in order for others to embrace you.
Yeah, I totally get that, and stuff like I remember listening to the like my first radio plays and just wondering how the production was going to compare to the other artists, and you're thinking, oh, that sounds really polished, and then you've got some others that perhaps don't sound so polished, and then your one comes on, and you're like, okay, that's cool, that's I'm cool with that. It's sounding good. So
Yeah, no, and that's so true. That's so true how you even went to the point of comparing production. I didn't even think of that. I was just thinking about like the voice and the songwriting style, but definitely production comes into play too. Like you said, if you're listening to a radio station, all these songs have incredible production, and then maybe you're doubting, oh no, mine sound like it fits here. So yeah, I definitely didn't think of that.
I think that comes into into my mind a lot. I mean, I'm working with like my songwriting partner, and he produces all the tracks, and we're pretty much learning as we go along, you know. And we again, I'm super proud of it. But looking forward, I'm thinking, oh, how could I, you know, expand the sound and maybe work with other people as well. You know, it's about acceptance and growing. I think acceptance and growth in many
Right.
ways.
Exactly. Yeah, and I totally relate to that because when I started recording music before 2019, I recorded a little bit from like 2017 and to the beginning of 2019 with a different producer because I was exploring with songwriting, and the producer I was with first definitely didn't meet my production standards. And so I actually changed studios when I wanted to become more serious with songwriting and actually release music. I made the decision I need my music to sound radio ready and polished, and so I need a good producer, even if that means, spending a little more on the studio time and the mixing. I'd rather do that in order to put out a product that sounds amazing and sounds like it fits into the commercial music scene, while also, living up to what I want in my music and my musical standards, because these songs mean a lot to me, and I want the production to help me get to where I want to be. And so I definitely agree with you that, the production definitely plays a role in that confidence and growth as well.
It's all about a lot of it is about confidence, isn't it? With regards to, you know, the music you're producing. How do you feel about like the vicinity that you live in, or the music scene that you live in? Do you feel um confident as an artist in that local scene?
Actually, not so much yet. I haven't really played live in Pittsburgh yet, and I think it's definitely a difficult music scene to break into, especially since COVID. A lot of the events that were scheduled for 2020, I feel like all the acts were pulled from last year to play this year, and so I haven't really been able to play at all here. But I actually play in Missouri. My sister lives in Missouri, and we just moved her there at the end of June, and I played when I was there, and I'm going back in September, and I'm playing there as well. So it's really nice to get out and play somewhere, but I'm definitely trying to find my place in the Pittsburgh music scene, which hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I've been lucky enough to play a few gigs. Like I said, I play for lots of tribute bands. I play keyboards, and a lot of the time they can give me like a support slot beforehand. So it's kind of lucky in a way. I get to play to like bigger audiences that haven't necessarily come to hear my music, but you know, it's getting the outlet. But another thing, I think like the genre of music, it's a bit like a fish out of water. Here in the UK, I think there's not there's not many places that are into country. Well, I say that, but in the area that I live specifically, I've not really found an area that really feels dedicated to country.
I do pop and country, and they're both huge in the United States, especially like country is really big here. Pop and country are huge here, so I haven't had the issue of, especially playing in Missouri, of not being able to play because it's pop and country. That's definitely genres that are, played here and embraced here.
That was a big step for me, accepting myself as an artist, because as obviously being 37, and like I said earlier, I'm not ancient. I feel I feel pretty young, but what style of music was I going to bring to the table that actually I felt confident delivering live, if that makes sense? Or I wasn't going to be in a pop band or a boy band anymore. It had to fit the right time of my life.
Yeah, you have to play music you love too.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, and I think playing live brings a whole other level of accepting our voices and our styles, because it's not only somebody listening to a song on Spotify or something, you're actually playing live in front of an audience. So, how have you grown to love your voice in that personal live music setting?
I've always been pretty confident on stage. I mean, um, I enjoy playing live. It's like the biggest passion in my life, I think, apart from like, kids and wife, fiance, or whatever. And I think it's it's kind of like a refining a rekindling a love affair, really, because I haven't sung live as a lead singer in a long time. I think there was a time um, when I first had my children, and night feeds, and I wasn't getting much sleep. It kind of, my love for um, performing or singing, in specific, um, that I kind of lost the love for that because my voice was not in good shape. I was always tired. I couldn't perform like the 2 hour set lists, and it became a real, like, a burden to a burden for me throughout the day, knowing that I had a gig that night, and I was tired and I wasn't prepared for it vocally. It became quite a burden. But now it's just gagging to get back out there.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I love how you acknowledge that. You need your voice to be in the right place, and you need your energy level to be in the right place. And I've definitely struggled a lot with performing live, not necessarily with my music now, but I have been a classical pianist for a really long time. I've played since I was really young, so I've done the whole recitals thing. I've done so many recitals ever since I was like 10 years old, all the way up until now. When I was in college, I studied music and English, and my instrument of focus was piano. And I think I suffered from really bad stage fright with piano, but because that's like a whole other level, playing these very complex classical pieces rather than doing an acoustic set, I've experienced so much more pressure with that now with my original music and when I'm doing covers and things at gigs, I'm definitely more confident. But I do struggle a little bit with my voice because we're only human, and every once in a while we'll sing something that's a little bit off pitch, or a voice does something weird and we're like, why did my voice do that? Are you kidding me? Why now? And I think that's something that we all have to get used to, and that goes for loving our voices as well, because our voices will do things, they're part of us, and we have to accept that, and if something happens and move on from there.
Totally. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm, God's gift to singing at all, but it's an instrument, isn't it? You got to really take care of it, and I don't think at my stage of my life, my voice um, will last like a 2 hour set if I've not uh, prepared properly during the day. It's funny you said about the keyboard as well, like how that can, you got stage fright playing the keyboards. I think accepting, because I play keyboards too, and I would hazard a guess that I'm nowhere near as competent as you. Um, but but I would also, I accept that, and I know my role in the band, if that makes sense. You've got to accept yourself as a musician as well. Like I know what type of keyboard player I am. I know what style of music I can I can deliver, and I wouldn't put myself in a situation that didn't suit, that type of playing. Same with my voice. I've come to accept that I'm not a rock singer. My tone is far more soulful, um and the types of songs that I deliver and write are the same as that. So
Yeah, definitely. And I love what you said about accepting yourself as a musician. I truly feel that with guitar. I am nowhere near as good as many, many guitar players. I'm good enough to simply accompany myself at a gig. I would never ever record guitar on my own track. And that's definitely accepting myself as a musician as well, because I can easily play guitar on my own recording, but I know it won't sound good. And so I have a guitarist, Luke, that I bring in every time I do an acoustic pop song or a country song where I need guitar recorded, because I know that I can't do that and I want my music to sound the best it can. So I feel like accepting, what you can and can't do we as musicians, artists, songwriters, we feel like we always have to do everything and be the best at everything, but that's not realistic. So recognizing what you are good at and embracing that and accepting that there's other things you're not going to be a pro at, that's totally normal and we all face that.
I totally agree with you. I'm in exactly the same boat. It's it, I'm not the I'm not an established guitar player. I've just pretty much decided that I want to be a acoustic guitarist in this band, but I don't record the acoustic tracks per se on my songs either. They get done again by I do the demo. It gets sent out to people, and if I find a better keyboard player, I would ask them to play it. But it's just whatever's good for the song, and I'm totally down with that.
There's one more thing I want to quickly talk about before we wrap up, and that is specifically with the writing process. So, how have you found yourself to accept yourself as a songwriter specifically?
Accepting myself as a songwriter is kind of like the same as accepting the genre that fits my voice. Really, I, I I've always loved country music, and I knew that if I was going to perform, I'd feel at ease singing these country songs. Um, the only trouble was a lot of country songs are singing about American way of life and things that affect, you know, drinking beer and trucks and stuff like that. A lot of the stuff on the radio is about that, and it just doesn't equate to my life in the slightest, really. So I wanted to take the stories, sensibilities, and the styles of music and kind of equate it to my life. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. Honestly, I don't live in the South. I don't know the whole like driving down the back roads and the pickup truck and like all that. That's not my country either. And I think what you were saying, like, we have to draw from our own lives as songwriters. We have to tell our stories and our experiences, and no matter what that story is, we can fit it into a genre. And I think that's what makes us so unique. And that's something we should accept about ourselves because, like I said earlier, nobody has our exact 100% same experiences. So if we can turn those into lyrics and craft them into an incredible song in country or for me, sometimes pop, then we can share that. And I think it's really, really important. I've definitely had a journey of accepting myself as a songwriter because I was afraid to open up about very vulnerable things. So when I started, I would write imaginary stories and I wasn't connecting with my own music. And then I realized that's a problem. How are my listeners going to connect if I don't connect? And so something I had to accept about myself is that my life calls for writing songs that are more personal and vulnerable and deeper, sometimes fun, but I do have to open up. And accepting that was really difficult because it's scary, but at the same time, I'm super proud of myself and where I'm at right now as a songwriter.
That's wonderful to hear as well. I mean, I would like to say that I was there with like writing deeply personal stuff, and I kind of am, but I don't I don't really want to write about negative things in my life at the minute. I've got like a young family. I've got a beautiful fiance, and I feel if I was writing too deeply and if it was like everyone has negative thoughts sometimes. I don't know if this makes sense, but I wouldn't want to write it down in a song that I was going to release, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I think, like, I personally am able to do that. Not necessarily negative things, but more introspective and reflective things. But I think, like, this is a perfect example of us being a little different. And that's absolutely fantastic and perfect because you and I are very different songwriters and artists, but we're still here on this podcast talking together because we're both incredible songwriters and artists who are trying to get out there and share our stories, and your story is different than mine and your style is a little different than mine even though we both write in country, but we both have embraced ourselves as artists and songwriters and musicians, and we're definitely taking steps forward. So thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. Before we go, what is one big piece of advice that you would like to share with anyone listening who might be a songwriter or artist to encourage them to just embrace who they are and accept themselves?
Well, I think like we were saying before, there's there's only one Demi, there's only one Ben. It's whatever comes out is your latest song, and you should just love it. You know, embrace the songs that you write, even if in the morning you might realize that I'm not going to take that one any further. Or you might wake up in the morning and think that that's my next big hit. It's just take it easy on yourself, and don't worry too much.
Perfect. Yeah, that's such a great piece of advice to just take it easy and don't worry, because it's definitely a process. I know you and I have definitely taken steps forward in accepting ourselves, but there is still room to grow and continue to do that. And as songwriters and artists, as our careers change and as our writing styles shift a bit, as we have different experiences, there will always be new ways of us, learning to accept ourselves as songwriters and artists. And so that's something that we're always doing. So don't force it and don't worry too much about it, because it's definitely a journey we're all on. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining me. This has been fantastic. Before we go, can you share with everyone where they can find you on social media and your website and listen to your awesome music?
Okay, so I've got a like an official website is benselleck.com, which is Selleck, like the actor you've got over there. He's actually my uncle, so
Oh, what?
Tom
No
Selleck.
way.
Yeah, no way. I was just kidding. Sorry.
I know, it's so funny. I was like totally playing off of that.
No, no. I've got no evidence to back that up. But anyway, yeah. So benselleck.com, and you can find me on Twitter, Ben Selleck, and then Instagram and Facebook at Ben Selleck Music.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. It's been brilliant, and keep up the podcast, because I'm sure it's going to get more successful.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those kind words. It means so much to me. Thank you so much again for being on. Listeners, thank you for listening. And until next time, stay right on track.